Okay, greetings. It's Rich checking in again. I just started pondering some things. As I said, this is just my random stuff. So whatever pops in my head, I'll do about it here. This is just something I was pondering me about the nature of Christianity, everything else. I'm getting a little bit of Bible in this here. The shorthand I wonder about here on the nature of salvation, and I think about that a Jonathan Howdy conversation we had here. You can chime in on this thing. I just try to think about the nature of salvation and how the West has a fixation on justification, as in the legal standing for God, and the big deal about what does one do to get right with God so one doesn't go to hell, etc. To that end, salvation ends up having a fixation on justification. According to Reformed theology, you have justification, sanctification, glorification as the full process. Anybody who knows the Bible understands that the fullness of the nature of Christ and manifesting it in all aspects to the word incarnate Christ and Jesus is Lord, as the Creed says. He shall come again to judge the living and dead, and his kingdom shall have no end. That thing there. So there's a big fixation on that. So the argument is over about God's approval, and is one justified by works? Does one have to do anything else here? Boy, there's a more Catholic answer that tries to take a little bit more integrated, saying that real justification has fruits. I've had the Catholic teaching of purgatory. I would say purgatory because the emphasis is on purging. In which case, the state of afterlife is that man goes through a refining fire, eventually becomes pure and sinless, and at that point, then he will enter into heaven. So there's other aspects to the salvation aspect, particularly glorification, which is the manifesting of God and God's will fully operating here. Well, what I want to focus on here with this point here, and this is just some thought, I'm bringing up Ephesians 2:8 through 9 because it's typically quoted by people: salvation by faith, salvation by salvation by faith, salvation by grace. Go like this here. So it's by faith you're saved through faith, and not of works, lest any man should boast. So no one can boast. And I think another one says, well, for it's a gift of God. I just topped it off here. Anyhow, I hope I had the right one there. Anyhow, you can go look it up. So there's a big fixation on going to heaven when you die, and everything else is salvation. And that's it. But then the other parts of the Christian life, which is the sanctification, holiness, overcoming sin, that apparently is a lot of works. Think of Ignatius Loyola quote a little bit here. Trust in God as if it totally depends on Him, but work as if it depends on you. So sanctification and all that stuff there, as work at your salvation, is considered works. But I have to have a question here. You have justification by faith. Why are the other parts involving work, or what originates from a man, to present to God? Why would that not be of God also? Why would not the sanctification be of God? Why would not the energies to produce the righteousness and the walking in it be of God? Why that? I'm going to focus on sanctification. The last one, I'm going to get to glorification a little bit, and it should be a little bit obvious, but why should the works or the efforts of man be by striving and working hard? What you know about Islam is there's a concept of jihad that they have in the religion. Jihad, which is part of the way of Islam, and that's the inner struggle. So there's a lot of work in that there of the inner struggling. You have Jesus said, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. You have Hebrews speaks of, there shall be a rest that yet remains, and man did not acquire rest in the Sabbath. So in Hebrews, pretty much what you had there, well, you spoke about that in regards to it, okay, with regards to Hebrews, is that the Sabbath didn't work. It says, when you hear the word of the Lord, harden not your heart. So on sanctification here, why would that not also be by the grace of God? Not by what originates from me, not by my own efforts, not by my own struggling, not even by how hard I pray, not by my mental gymnastics that I'm going to do here, not the thing. Why wouldn't it be by grace? Why wouldn't it be abiding in Christ and the energy of Christ working in you? I think the Orthodox Church talks about the uncreated energies. God. Why is it not that? As opposed to create energy, which is interesting, the idea of created versus uncreated grace. I believe I'm getting it right, which was interesting that the way I understood it was just that it was by the efforts of people, not intercessors or something else here. So why wouldn't that, the area of the righteousness, or walking in and manifesting it that way, overcoming sanctification and being set apart here, why wouldn't that be by grace? And can I present you a third one here? And this should be the most obvious one, glorification, which is manifesting the nature of God in the fullness. So you can see the sanctification there, and that's like the Reformed theology, and I personally consider it a little bit too tidy because I think all three can happen here. That last one, glorification. Where would man fit in that here? If it's reflecting the nature of God here, where would man fit in that? That one should be the most obvious. Not by works of man does it manifest it. The works can be fruit if a good tree is harvested and the gardener, the caretaker, takes care of it, it produces fruit, which is Jesus said like this. You know, pretty much look at the tree it produces. He got frustrated at the fig tree that wasn't fruitful. That's what you do. So I'm thinking if you get refined and you become that which is what you should be, should not the good works follow? So at what point in this, the nature of grace and everything else you have here, at what point is it of works? Matter of fact, I left Ephesians 10 off here. It says, "For we are his workmanship, creating in Christ Jesus for good works, which he's preordained or set ahead of us to do." That's a question I have here. If you stumble across this video and have no ideas how it's going to view, I really wonder, at what point is human striving, struggling, and working hard fit into this? Would it not be flow? Would not the yoke be easy and the burden be light? There's a psychological term I had there about flow or something else here, that when you had and you know these things here, when you're in your element, how easy does it flow? And this works then at this point here, the charity, the giving, the love, and everything else should flow naturally. And the hard part should be, because it says the way of the transgressor is hard, that way should be the hard way when you're off. The easy way should be the way of righteousness. Anyhow, just my thoughts on there. Feel free to post some comments below, and I have no idea who's ever going to see this video. I'm going to post it on. I have a group that I'm doing, just try to get together. I just want to share this thought here. I might have some other ones. Who knows? So, okay. So that's my question here. Feel free to let me know at what point in this phase involving salvation does it involve works of the man? Striving and struggling and working really hard and exerting yourself. Or to say that I don't turn to God for righteousness. At what point is it just of man? Just a thought I'm wondering. Feel free to post some comments below. And I'm out. Okay, take care. Good night, everybody.